Housing has crossed from being a social challenge into a full-blown emergency. For much of the middle class, owning a home is no longer a realistic goal. Young people can't afford to enter the market. Young professionals with good jobs are locked out. Unless someone receives inheritance or family help, homeownership has become unattainable. This is not a natural outcome of supply and demand. It is the result of policy choices that allowed housing to become a financial asset first and a human necessity second. If governments are serious about restoring affordability, the solutions are known. What's missing is political will. 1. Stop the commoditization of housing. Housing should not function like a speculative financial instrument. Over the past 2 decades, policies encouraged investors, funds, and speculators to treat homes as tradable assets rather than places to live. Governments can reverse this by clearly separating housing as shelter from housing as investment. That means prioritizing owner-occupiers, discouraging speculative demand, and explicitly designing policies around livability rather than price appreciation. When homes are treated primarily as wealth vehicles, affordability collapses by design. 2. Discourage flipping through heavy short-term taxes. Rapid flipping fuels price inflation without adding real value. Investors buy, hold briefly, and sell higher, pushing prices further out of reach for genuine buyers. Governments should impose heavy capital gains taxes on properties sold within 5 years, with the steepest penalties in the first 2 to 3 years. This doesn't punish long-term ownership or genuine life changes, but it strongly discourages speculative churn. If housing is meant to be lived in, not traded, flipping should not be profitable. 3. Discourage multiple property ownership. One of the most damaging trends has been the concentration of housing ownership. A small segment of the population owns multiple properties while millions own none. Governments can act by denying mortgages for secondary and tertiary homes, increasing property taxes progressively with each additional property, prioritizing first-time buyers and financing and incentives. Housing scarcity worsens when leveraged investors compete directly with families. Removing cheap credit for non-essential ownership would rebalance the market immediately. 4. Ban foreign ownership of residential housing. Residential housing should not be used as a global parking lot for capital. In many countries, foreign buyers purchase properties not to live in, but to store wealth, avoid scrutiny, or launder money from corrupt systems abroad. These homes often sit empty, contributing nothing to local communities while driving prices higher. A strict ban on foreign ownership of residential properties, with narrow humanitarian exceptions, would immediately reduce speculative demand and restore housing to its local purpose. This is not anti-immigrant policy. It is anti-speculation policy. 5. Lower construction costs by reducing excessive levies. Governments often claim builders are the problem, but cities themselves add enormous costs through development fees, levies, and charges that can account for a significant portion of final prices. Reducing or restructuring these costs would lower per-unit prices, encourage more mid-scale and affordable builds, increase supply without sacrificing quality. When governments treat housing construction as a revenue source, affordability becomes impossible. 6. Make the approval process faster and predictable. Slow, opaque approval processes choke supply and inflate costs. Developers wait years for permits, during which financing costs rise and risk increases. Those costs are passed directly to buyers. Governments must set firm approval timelines, simplify zoning and density rules, standardize approvals across municipalities. Efficiency does not mean deregulation. It means clarity, speed, and accountability. The hard truth: housing is unaffordable because it has been engineered to be unaffordable. Governments benefited from rising prices through tax revenues. Political pressure eased on homeowners, and speculative wealth creation masked deeper economic stagnation. But the cost is now visible: a generation locked out, declining birth rates, rising inequality, social anger, and instability. No society can remain healthy when shelter becomes a luxury product. Conclusion: housing affordability will not return through slogans or subsidies alone. It requires structural reform that shifts housing back to its core purpose: a place to live, not a vehicle for speculation. Governments know what to do. The only remaining question is whether they are willing to confront the interests that profit from the status quo. Because without action, this crisis will not correct itself. It will harden into a permanent divide between those who own and those who never will.